The sun beat down on the wagon train, baking the earth a dusty brown. Sarah wiped sweat from her brow, her calico dress clinging to her back. This journey west was harder than any story she'd ever heard. The endless plains stretched out before them, a sea of grass shimmering in the heat. Wagons creaked and groaned, oxen strained, and children cried, their voices thin against the vastness of the land. Sarah clung to the side of the wagon, trying to find a bit of shade. Her husband, Thomas, coughed weakly beside her, his face pale and drawn. He'd been sick for days, a fever burning him from the inside out. Sarah had tried every remedy she knew, but nothing seemed to help. The other settlers were a mix of hopeful farmers, fortune seekers, and families dreaming of a better life. They shared stories around crackling campfires at night, tales of fertile land and golden opportunities. But the journey was taking its toll. Supplies were dwindling, tempers were flaring, and sickness was spreading like wildfire through the camp. Sarah remembered leaving her home back east, filled with optimism and excitement. Now, weeks into the journey, she felt a gnawing fear in her heart. The promised land seemed further away than ever, and the hardships were relentless. The constant dust, the lack of water, the gnawing hunger, it was all wearing her down. But she had to stay strong for Thomas, for their dream of a new life. She prayed silently, hoping that they would reach their destination soon, a place where Thomas could recover and they could finally build their home. The journey was far from over, and Sarah knew that more challenges lay ahead. The next morning, Thomas was worse. His breathing was shallow and raspy, and his skin felt like fire. Sarah bathed his forehead with a damp cloth, whispering words of comfort, though her own heart was heavy with dread. The wagon master, a gruff man named Jedediah, stopped by their wagon. He looked at Thomas, his face grim. "He ain't gonna make it," Jedediah said bluntly. "We can't risk slowing down the whole train. We gotta keep moving." Sarah's blood ran cold. "But we can't just leave him," she pleaded. "We got no choice," Jedediah replied, his voice hard. "It's the good of the many over the good of the few. We'll leave you some supplies, enough to get by for a few days. But we can't stay." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she watched the other settlers pack up their wagons. No one met her gaze. They were all afraid, desperate to reach their destination and escape the spreading illness. Jedediah left a small pile of dried meat, a canteen of water, and a rusty old rifle beside the wagon. Then, with a crack of his whip, he signaled the train to move on. Sarah knelt beside Thomas, holding his hand. He opened his eyes, a flicker of recognition in their depths. "Don't leave me, Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I won't," she promised, her voice choked with emotion. "I'll stay with you, no matter what." The wagons rumbled away, leaving Sarah and Thomas alone in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. The dust swirled around them, a silent testament to their abandonment. Thomas died that night, his last breath a shallow sigh against Sarah's cheek. She closed his eyes, her heart shattering into a million pieces. The vastness of the plains pressed in on her, a suffocating reminder of her isolation. She buried him beneath a lone cottonwood tree, marking the grave with a pile of stones. Her tears mingled with the dry earth as she whispered a prayer, her voice cracking with grief. Days turned into weeks. Sarah rationed the meager supplies, each bite a reminder of her dwindling hope. The sun blazed relentlessly, turning the land into a furnace. Water became scarce, and her throat was constantly parched. She tried to hunt with the rifle, but her hands trembled, and she missed every shot. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and her strength began to fade. Despair settled over her like a shroud. She wandered aimlessly, her clothes torn and dirty, her skin burned by the sun. She imagined seeing Thomas's face in the clouds, hearing his voice on the wind. Sometimes, she didn't know if she was dreaming or awake. One day, she collapsed beside a dry creek bed, too weak to go on. Her vision blurred, and the world began to fade. She closed her eyes, accepting her fate. The vultures circled overhead, their shadows dancing on the parched earth. She was alone, abandoned, and left to die in the unforgiving wilderness. She drifted into unconsciousness, a single tear tracing a path down her dusty cheek. The sun beat down, and the vultures waited. High on a mesa, overlooking the vast expanse of the plains, Kai watched the wagon train snake its way westward. He was a warrior of the Navajo people, strong and agile, his eyes sharp and observant. He had seen many such wagon trains pass through their lands, bringing with them disruption and change. He did not trust these settlers. They took without asking and rarely showed respect for the land or its people. Kai was a skilled hunter and tracker. He knew the land intimately, every crevice and canyon, every hidden spring and game trail. He valued honor, courage, and respect for nature. He lived by the ancient ways of his people, a life of harmony with the earth. He had been tracking the wagon train for several days, concerned about their impact on the local wildlife and resources. He had witnessed their carelessness, their disregard for the delicate balance of the ecosystem. He knew that their arrival meant more competition for dwindling resources, more conflict, and more hardship for his people. As he watched the wagons disappear over the horizon, he noticed something unusual. A lone figure remained behind, near a cluster of cottonwood trees. Curious, he urged his horse forward, his senses alert. He had a feeling that something was amiss, something that required his attention. He approached cautiously, his hand resting on the hilt of his knife, ready for whatever he might find. The fate of the lone figure, and perhaps his own, was about to change. Kai approached cautiously, his horse moving with silent grace. As he drew closer, he saw the woman lying motionless beside the dry creek bed. Vultures circled overhead, their presence a grim omen. He dismounted and approached her, his senses on high alert. He saw the tattered remains of her dress, the sunburned skin, and the gauntness of her face. She was clearly near death. He knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her forehead. Her skin was burning hot. He checked for a pulse and found it faint and weak. She was barely alive. He scanned the surroundings, noticing the makeshift grave beneath the cottonwood tree. He understood then what had happened. The settlers had abandoned her, left her to die alone in the wilderness. A wave of anger washed over him. He had seen the cruelty of these people before, their selfishness and their disregard for human life. But he also felt a pang of compassion for this woman, left to suffer such a fate. He knew that if he left her there, she would surely die. But helping her would be risky. It would expose him and his people to danger. He hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks and the consequences. But then he looked into her face, saw the lines of suffering etched there, and made his decision. He could not leave her to die. He would help her, even if it meant putting himself in harm's way. He gently lifted her into his arms, careful not to cause her any further pain. He mounted his horse, holding her close, and turned towards the mountains, towards his hidden camp, towards an uncertain future. He knew that his actions would have consequences, but he also knew that he had done the right thing. The journey to Kai's camp was long and arduous, winding through narrow canyons and up steep mountain trails. He held Sarah securely in his arms, shielding her from the sun and the wind. When they finally arrived, it was late in the day. The camp was nestled in a hidden valley, surrounded by towering cliffs and lush vegetation. A clear stream flowed through the center, providing fresh water. Kai's sister, Naya, a skilled healer, rushed to greet them. Her eyes widened when she saw Sarah. Kai explained what had happened, and Naya immediately set to work, tending to Sarah's wounds and fever. She cleaned her skin with cool water, applied soothing herbs, and wrapped her in a soft blanket. For days, Sarah lay in a feverish delirium, her body fighting for survival. Naya and Kai took turns watching over her, feeding her small sips of water and broth. Naya used traditional Navajo remedies, chanting ancient prayers and performing healing rituals. Slowly, Sarah began to respond. The fever subsided, and her breathing became more regular. As Sarah regained consciousness, Kai taught her basic survival skills. He showed her how to find water, how to identify edible plants, and how to build a fire. He spoke to her in simple terms, using gestures and drawings to communicate. Sarah, weak but determined, listened attentively, eager to learn. She knew that her survival depended on it. She began to understand that Kai had saved her life, and she felt a growing sense of gratitude and respect for him and his people. The hidden camp became her sanctuary, a place of healing and hope. As Sarah grew stronger, she began to learn more about Navajo culture. Naya taught her how to weave intricate patterns into blankets, how to grind corn into flour, and how to prepare traditional Navajo dishes. Sarah listened intently, fascinated by their customs and traditions. She admired their deep connection to the land and their respect for all living things. She spent hours with Kai, learning the Navajo language. It was difficult at first, but Kai was patient and encouraging. He taught her the names of the plants and animals, the stars and the constellations. He shared stories of his ancestors, of their struggles and triumphs, of their deep spiritual beliefs. Sarah, in turn, shared stories of her life back east, of her family, of her dreams for the future. She told Kai about the hardships she had faced on the journey west, about the loss of her husband, and about the cruelty of the settlers who had abandoned her. As they shared their stories, a bond began to form between them. They found common ground in their shared experiences of loss and hardship, in their shared values of compassion and resilience. Sarah saw in Kai a strength and a kindness that she had never encountered before. Kai saw in Sarah courage and a spirit that he deeply admired. They were from different worlds, but they were drawn together by a shared humanity. The seeds of love began to blossom in their hearts, nurtured by mutual respect and understanding. The news of Sarah's presence in the camp spread quickly among the Navajo people. Some welcomed her with open arms, seeing her as a symbol of hope and compassion. Others were wary, distrustful of outsiders, especially those who came from the same people who were encroaching on their lands. An elder named Hosky was particularly vocal in his disapproval. He argued that Sarah was a threat to their way of life, that she would bring disease and disruption to their community. He reminded them of the broken treaties and the stolen lands, of the suffering that the settlers had inflicted upon their people. Why should we trust her? Hosky demanded during a tribal council meeting. She's one of them. She will betray us, just like the others. Kai stood before the council, his voice calm but firm. Sarah is not like the others, he said. She has suffered greatly. She has lost everything. She is learning our ways, respecting our traditions. She is not a threat to us. She is a person in need of help. The debate raged for hours, dividing the community. Some supported Kai, trusting his judgment and his compassion. Others sided with Hosky, fearing the unknown and clinging to their distrust. The council was deeply divided, unsure of what to do. The decision of whether to accept Sarah into their community hung in the balance, threatening to tear the tribe apart. The weight of the decision rested heavily on Kai's shoulders. He knew that the future of Sarah, and perhaps the future of his tribe, depended on the outcome. Kai knew he had to convince the council that Sarah posed no threat. He decided to show them, not just tell them, who Sarah truly was. He proposed a test. He asked Sarah to demonstrate her skills and knowledge, to show the tribe how she could contribute to their community. Sarah, though nervous, agreed. She knew this was her chance to prove her worth. She began by showing them how to improve their farming techniques. She explained how to rotate crops to replenish the soil, how to build irrigation systems to conserve water, and how to use natural fertilizers to increase yields. The tribe listened intently, impressed by her knowledge. Next, she demonstrated her skill in crafting. She showed them how to make stronger ropes from plant fibers, how to sew durable clothing from animal hides, and how to create more efficient tools from stone and wood. Her ingenuity and resourcefulness surprised even the most skeptical members of the tribe. Finally, she shared her knowledge of healing. She showed them how to use different herbs to treat various ailments, how to clean wounds to prevent infection, and how to care for the sick and injured. Naya, the tribe's healer, worked alongside her, learning new techniques and sharing her own wisdom. As Sarah demonstrated her skills, the tribe began to see her in a new light. They saw her not as an outsider, but as a valuable member of their community, someone who could contribute to their well-being. Husky, though still wary, began to soften his stance. He could not deny the evidence before his eyes. Sarah was proving herself to be a resourceful, intelligent, and compassionate woman. The tide was turning in her favor. The tribal council gathered again, their faces etched with anticipation. The air was thick with unspoken questions. Husky rose to speak first. "She is skilled," he admitted, his voice grudging. "But can we truly trust her? Can we be sure she will not betray us?" Kai stepped forward, his gaze meeting Husky's. "I have watched her closely," he said. "I have seen her heart. She is not our enemy. She is a woman of courage and compassion. She has learned our ways, and she respects our traditions. She has shown us that she is willing to work for the good of our community." He paused, his eyes sweeping across the faces of the council members. "I brought her here because I believed she deserved a second chance," he continued. "I believe that we could learn from each other. I still believe that. I ask you to trust my judgment. I ask you to open your hearts to her." He then addressed Sarah directly, speaking in Navajo so that everyone could understand. He told her that he believed in her, that he trusted her, and that he would stand by her, no matter what the council decided. Sarah, her heart filled with gratitude, stepped forward and spoke in broken Navajo. "I'm grateful for your kindness," she said. "I will do everything I can to earn your trust. I will honor your traditions. I will work for the good of your community." The council members listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and apprehension. The decision was theirs to make. The fate of Sarah, and perhaps the future of the tribe, rested in their hands. The council deliberated long into the night. Finally, they reached a decision. The chief, a wise and respected leader, announced their verdict. "We have heard Kai's words," he said. "We have seen Sarah's actions. We have decided to welcome her into our community." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Husky, though still hesitant, nodded his head in agreement. Sarah's heart soared with relief and gratitude. She had been given a second chance, a new home, a new family. True to her word, Sarah continued to use her knowledge and skills to help the tribe. She worked alongside the women, teaching them new techniques for weaving and pottery. She helped the hunters improve their trapping methods, ensuring a more reliable source of food. She assisted Naya in caring for the sick, sharing her knowledge of medicinal herbs. One particularly harsh winter, a deadly flu swept through the camp. Many fell ill, and the tribe's traditional remedies proved ineffective. Sarah, drawing on her knowledge of Western medicine, developed a new treatment that helped to save many lives. The tribe was deeply grateful for her ingenuity and compassion. As time passed, Sarah became an integral part of the Navajo community. She learned their language fluently, embraced their customs, and shared their values. She was no longer seen as an outsider, but as one of their own. She had earned their respect, their trust, and their love. She had found a place where she belonged, a place where she could finally find peace. The bond between her and Kai deepened, strengthened by their shared experiences and their mutual respect. They were two souls from different worlds, brought together by fate, united by love. The love between Kai and Sarah blossomed slowly, like a desert flower after a long rain. Kai admired Sarah's strength, her resilience, and her unwavering spirit. He loved her kindness, her compassion, and her genuine concern for others. He saw in her a partner, a friend, and a soulmate. Sarah admired Kai's courage, his honor, and his deep connection to the earth. She loved his gentle nature, his unwavering loyalty, and his quiet strength. She saw in him a protector, a confidant, and the love of her life. One evening, as they sat by the campfire, Kai took Sarah's hand in his. "My heart speaks your name," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I want you to be my wife, to share my life, to walk beside me on this earth." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, Kai," she whispered. "I want nothing more." They embraced, their hearts overflowing with love. The fire crackled and popped, casting dancing shadows on their faces. The stars twinkled above, bearing witness to their love. The wind whispered through the canyons, carrying their love song to the heavens. Their love was a testament to the power of compassion, the resilience of the human spirit, and the enduring bond between two souls from different worlds. Their love story was just beginning. The wedding ceremony was a beautiful and sacred event, steeped in Navajo tradition. The entire tribe gathered in the center of the camp, their faces adorned with colorful paint, their voices filled with song. A traditional hogan, a sacred dwelling, was constructed for the occasion, its entrance facing east towards the rising sun. Sarah wore a dress made of soft deerskin, adorned with intricate beadwork. Naya had spent weeks crafting it, pouring her love and skill into every stitch. Kai wore his finest buckskin clothing, his face painted with symbols of strength and courage. The ceremony began with a blessing from the tribal shaman, who chanted ancient prayers to honor the spirits of their ancestors. He sprinkled corn pollen on Kai and Sarah, symbolizing fertility and prosperity. Then, Kai and Sarah exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for all time. They shared a wedding basket filled with cornmeal mush, symbolizing the sharing of their lives and their resources. They walked around the fire 4 times, symbolizing the 4 directions and the 4 stages of life. They were declared husband and wife, united in spirit and in love. The celebration continued late into the night, with feasting, dancing, and storytelling. The entire tribe rejoiced in the union of Kai and Sarah, a symbol of hope and unity. Even Husky, his heart softened by Sarah's kindness and Kai's love, offered his blessing. Sarah looked around at the smiling faces, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known before. She was home. She was loved. She was finally at peace. Her new life with Kai had truly begun. Sarah embraced her new life with open arms, eager to learn and grow. She dedicated herself to mastering the Navajo language, spending hours practicing with Kai and Naya. She learned the nuances of their speech, the subtle inflections that conveyed meaning and emotion. Soon, she was able to converse fluently, sharing stories and jokes with the other members of the tribe. She immersed herself in Navajo customs, learning the intricate rituals and traditions that governed their daily lives. She learned how to weave intricate patterns into blankets, how to create beautiful pottery from clay, and how to prepare traditional Navajo dishes. She learned the importance of respecting the land, of honoring their ancestors, and of living in harmony with nature. She participated in tribal ceremonies, dancing and singing alongside the other women. She learned the ancient stories and legends, passing them down to the children. She became a skilled hunter and gatherer, providing for her family and contributing to the well-being of the tribe. She also shared her own knowledge and skills, teaching the children how to read and write, how to count and calculate, and how to use new tools and techniques. She blended her Western knowledge with Navajo wisdom, creating a unique and harmonious blend of cultures. Sarah found fulfillment in her new life, surrounded by love, respect, and a sense of belonging. She was no longer a lost and abandoned widow, but a strong and confident woman, a valued member of the Navajo community, and a beloved wife to Kai. She had found her purpose, her home, and her heart. Their peaceful existence was not without its challenges. The encroaching presence of settlers continued to be a source of tension. More and more wagons passed through their lands, claiming territory and depleting resources. Skirmishes with settlers became more frequent as the Navajo fought to protect their way of life. One day, a group of settlers, emboldened by their increasing numbers, raided a nearby Navajo village, stealing livestock and supplies. Kai, along with other warriors, rode out to confront them. A fierce battle ensued, with both sides suffering losses. Kai was wounded, but he fought bravely, driving the settlers back. The incident heightened tensions between the Navajo and the settlers, threatening to escalate into a full-scale war. Sarah, using her knowledge of the settler culture, proposed a plan to negotiate a peaceful settlement. She knew that violence would only lead to more suffering and loss. She volunteered to travel to the nearest settlement, to speak with the leaders and try to find a compromise. Kai was hesitant to let her go, fearing for her safety, but he trusted her judgment and her courage. He knew that she was their best hope for avoiding a war. Sarah, accompanied by a small group of Navajo warriors, set out on her mission. She faced suspicion and hostility from the settlers, but she remained calm and resolute. She spoke eloquently about the Navajos' right to their land, about the need for respect and understanding, and about the futility of violence. Her words, spoken with sincerity and conviction, began to sway some of the settlers. A fragile peace hung in the balance. But the settlers were not the only threat. The tribe also faced dangers from rival tribes vying for control of territory and resources. Raids and skirmishes were common, threatening the safety and security of the Navajo community. Recognizing the need for better defenses, Kai and Sarah worked together to protect their community. Kai, a skilled warrior, trained the Navajo men in advanced combat techniques, teaching them how to use their knowledge of the land to their advantage. He organized scouting parties to patrol the borders, providing early warning of approaching threats. Sarah, drawing on her knowledge of engineering, helped them to build stronger fortifications around the camp. She designed a system of trenches and palisades that would provide better protection against attack. She also taught them how to create more effective weapons, using readily available materials. When rival tribes threatened to raid their village, Kai and Sarah devised a clever plan to deter them. They spread rumors of a powerful curse that would befall anyone who dared to attack the Navajo. They created elaborate decoys to make the village appear larger and more heavily defended than it actually was. The deception worked, and the rival tribes were deterred from attacking. During a particularly severe drought, when water was scarce, Sarah used her knowledge of underground springs to locate new sources of water. She led the tribe to these hidden springs, saving them from starvation and dehydration. Kai and Sarah's combined courage and ingenuity became legendary among the Navajo. They were seen as protectors of their people, symbols of strength and resilience. They faced every challenge with determination and resourcefulness, always putting the needs of their community first. Their love for each other and their commitment to their people inspired everyone around them. Together, they were an unstoppable force, capable of overcoming any obstacle. Sarah's knowledge of farming, gained from her life before coming west, proved invaluable to the tribe. She observed their traditional farming methods and saw opportunities for improvement. She introduced new techniques, such as crop rotation and composting, to enrich the soil and increase yields. She showed them how to build terraces on the hillsides to prevent erosion and conserve water. She introduced new crops, such as beans and squash, that were better suited to the arid climate. She taught them how to irrigate their fields using a system of canals and ditches, ensuring a more reliable water supply. At first, some of the tribe members were skeptical of Sarah's methods. They had farmed the same way for generations, and they were hesitant to change. But Sarah's persistence and her obvious success eventually won them over. They saw that her techniques were producing larger and healthier crops, providing more food for the community. The tribe's harvest became more abundant than ever before. They had enough food to feed everyone, with plenty left over to store for the winter. They even had enough to trade with neighboring tribes, strengthening their alliances and improving their economic standing. Sarah's contributions to the tribe's farming practices earned her even greater respect and admiration. She was seen as a visionary, a leader, and a benefactor. She had used her outsider knowledge to improve the lives of everyone in the community. She had transformed their arid land into a fertile oasis. The tribe flourished under her guidance, and their future looked brighter than ever before. Sarah had found her true calling, using her skills and knowledge to make a positive impact on the world around her. For many years, a time of peace and prosperity settled over the Navajo community. The blending of two cultures had created a unique and harmonious way of life. The tribe thrived, their bellies full, their spirits high. They lived in harmony with nature, respecting the land and its resources. The children grew up learning both Navajo traditions and Western knowledge. They learned the ancient stories and legends, but they also learned how to read and write. They learned how to hunt and gather, but they also learned how to farm and engineer. They were a generation of well-rounded individuals, equipped to face the challenges of the future. Sarah and Kai were revered figures in the community, their love story a legend passed down through generations. They continued to work tirelessly to protect their people, always striving to find peaceful solutions to conflicts. They fostered a spirit of unity and cooperation, encouraging everyone to work together for the common good. The Navajo village became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of compassion, understanding, and cultural exchange. Settlers who were weary of the violence and hardship of the frontier often sought refuge in the village, finding acceptance and a new way of life. Even Husky, who had once been so skeptical of Sarah, became one of her greatest allies. He saw the positive impact she had had on the community, and he recognized the wisdom of blending their traditions with Western knowledge. He often sought her counsel, valuing her insight and her compassion. The Navajo tribe had found a path to a brighter future, a future where two cultures could coexist in peace and harmony. The blending of their worlds had created something truly special. Years later, Sarah sat beside Kai, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple. Their hair was streaked with silver, their faces etched with the wisdom of experience. She reflected on her journey, from the hardships of the wagon train to the peace and prosperity she had found with the Navajo. She remembered the pain of losing Thomas, the despair of being abandoned, and the fear of facing death alone. But she also remembered the kindness of Kai, the compassion of Naya, and the warmth of the Navajo community. She had come to this land seeking a new life, but she had found something far greater than she could have ever imagined. She had found love, belonging, and a purpose. She had learned to respect a different culture, to embrace a different way of life, and to appreciate the beauty of the natural world. She looked at Kai, her heart filled with gratitude. He had saved her life, not just physically, but spiritually. He had shown her the true meaning of love, compassion, and community. He was her protector, her confidant, and her soulmate. "I never thought I could be so happy again," she said, her voice soft with emotion. "I'm so grateful for everything you have given me." Kai smiled, taking her hand in his. "You have given me so much as well," he said. "You have brought wisdom, compassion, and strength to our community. You have shown us that it is possible for two cultures to live together in peace and harmony." They sat in silence for a moment, content to simply be together, watching the sunset fade into darkness. Sarah knew that her journey had been long and difficult, but she also knew that it had been worth it. She had found her home, her family, and her heart. She was finally at peace. Their love story reached its ultimate fulfillment with the birth of their child, a daughter named Hope. She was a beautiful child, with Kai's dark eyes and Sarah's fair hair. She was raised with love and care, learning both Navajo traditions and Western knowledge. She was the embodiment of the blending of their two worlds, a symbol of hope for the future. The entire tribe rejoiced at Hope's birth. She was seen as a blessing, a gift from the Great Spirit. They celebrated her arrival with a traditional Navajo ceremony, showering her with gifts and blessings. Hope grew up strong and intelligent, inheriting the best qualities of both her parents. She learned to hunt and gather, but she also learned to read and write. She learned the ancient stories and legends, but she also learned about science and mathematics. She was a bridge between two cultures, a living example of the power of understanding and cooperation. As she grew older, Hope became a leader in her community, working to promote peace and harmony between the Navajo and the settlers. She used her knowledge and skills to improve the lives of everyone around her. She was a source of inspiration and hope for all who knew her. Kai and Sarah watched their daughter with pride, knowing that she would carry on their legacy of love, compassion, and cultural exchange. They had created a new world for her, a world where two cultures could coexist in peace and harmony. Their love story had come full circle, culminating in the birth of a child who would shape the future. The hope for a better tomorrow lived on in their daughter, Hope. And so, the story of Sarah and Kai became a timeless legend, a testament to the enduring power of love, compassion, and acceptance. It was a story told around crackling campfires, passed down from generation to generation. It was a story that reminded everyone that even in the darkest of times, hope can still blossom. The story emphasized the importance of compassion, of reaching out to those in need, regardless of their background or their circumstances. Kai's act of kindness in saving Sarah's life had transformed not only her life, but the lives of his entire community. It emphasized the importance of acceptance, of embracing diversity and celebrating cultural differences. Sarah's willingness to learn and adapt to Navajo customs had created a harmonious blend of two worlds, enriching the lives of everyone involved. And most of all, it emphasized the power of love, of its ability to overcome adversity, to heal wounds, and to unite people from different backgrounds. Kai and Sarah's love had defied all odds, creating a lasting legacy of peace, prosperity, and understanding. Their story served as a reminder that even in a world filled with conflict and division, love can still triumph. It was a story of hope, a story of resilience, and a story of the enduring power of the human spirit. It was a story that would continue to inspire generations to come, reminding them that anything is possible if they open their hearts to love, compassion, and acceptance. The end.